leaving it up for potential Team Dignitas choice. Trist is up, though, and could be considered the trade pick.
Getting that Thresh for Biofrost is huge, though. Playmaking for both of these supports, and Thresh is extremely versatile. That being said, let's see what Team Dignitas can get back on the other side. Gragas and Jarvan are both up. Those are usually traded because they are those very versatile bruisers. And bottom lane could still be a focus.
Yeah, this is so interesting that they had banned the Ashe and the Twitch while leaving Tristana and Kalista up, so I think we're going to see that 80 carry trade in some way. Jarvan as a flex pick does speak more to that versatility for Team Dignitas, being able to put that in the jungle or the top lane.
Well, we'll have to see, because certainly Dig have been pretty consistent playing around Altec and on some of these late game carries. He loves to play those kind of champions, but today they will actually take Kalista, like you said, Jet, the highest presence champion currently.
Yeah.
I still am pretty shocked that it wasn't banned or first picked away with how much priority we've been seeing on that pick across the globe. Not to mention, when Team Dignitas did play TSM during their 2-0 in the regular season, Kalista was a really big part of that.
Doublelift has often talked about how when TSM are looking for the most consistent strategy, though, they say put me on a late game carry and put Bjergsen on a late game AP carry for the mid lane. So that would be the Tristana, more late game is often picked into the Kalista, and then have Bjergsen on one of those high DPS mid laners from the mid lane. It looks like that's what they are going through here. The Thresh and Tristana does have a lot of versatility as well. That's one of the bottom lanes that can get a lot of early kills as well.
Exactly, and it's playmaking all across the board for TSM and Dignitas, actually. Something that Dignitas has had a lot of success with is drafting very heavy CC compositions, getting a pick, and forcing Baron very early on into the game. And that's not unique to TSM. It's what most of the good teams have been doing. We see both teams with initiation and playmaking in every role.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think of Adrian's Alistar when I think of that, but Blitz going to be very good here as well. And of course, kind of opposing the Gragas, which is the other big playmaker you're noting there on TSM. So a very interesting first 6 picks here in phase 1 of the draft, but now Dig will get their chance to ban yet another champion.
Yeah, 5 Blitz games for Adrian this year. Actually, if you don't count playoffs, he played more Blitz than he did Alistar in the regular season, so it's been very effective, synergizes very well with Kalista. And both these teams pretty much matching each other. We have the duo lanes and the junglers locked in, so the big solo lane heavy hitters here still yet to come.
And I am actually just so excited for this bottom lane matchup. We talked about a little bit, coming into this series, but Altec and Adrian have been such a big part of TSM, or of Team Dignitas, the new way that they're playing this game. And with Kalista and Blitzcrank, we have seen if Adrian gets any sort of room early on in the lane and gets the roam up, he can actually affect mid lane very heavily as well, and maybe he tries to go pester Bjergsen.
I'm curious to see what's happening in phase 2, though. Cho and LeBlanc banned from Dignitas, so taking away some solo lane is most likely, though Gragas and Cho can flex top and jungle. And then the Syndra ban away from Kane for Bjergsen, of course, one of his biggest champions, and might even throw another ban here to kind of join in with the cast.
I was going to say Talia is probably the one that has not been banned out here and is still left up, would be the kind of go-to if you're just going down the tier list choice here for mid laners. But it seems as though TSM, we were expecting them to cook up something special coming out with so much extra practice time, and it may be revolving around that mid lane. We'll see if Keen actually goes for the more obvious choice, or if Team Dignitas actually want to save their counter pick, because they could save counter pick till the very end. There they go, though. They're going to take the obvious one.
Take the safe one. Depending on where you're looking, Talia can be seen as a must ban, but it really depends on how you look at the game right now, as there's a lot of diversity in that mid lane. So Team Dignitas saves their flex pick right there, so they're not revealing where that is going, which means TSM has to blind their top laner as well as get the counter pick for mid right here.
Yeah, I'm super curious as far as the counter, because it seems like TSM maneuvered this entire draft in order to get this for Bjergsen, and they kind of funneled Keen into this pick. This is the intended counter, and it looks like they may even go with double possible split pushes here for the double teleport, 1-3-1 strategy.
Yeah, and TSM did play Kassadin twice during the regular season. It didn't look clean, but they did win both games. And when they combo with the Shen, they still have that team fight backup if they really want to. If they can stall to the late game, you can bring in Shen with a level 16 Kassadin and really destroy the backline of Talia and Kalista if they get to that point. The danger here for TSM is going to be their lack of wave clear.
And the thing about, you know, Kassadin into Taliyah is, yes, Kassadin doesn't have to use a dash to dodge a lot of Taliyah's damage, and you can outplay the Taliyah in that 1 versus 1. The problem is, whenever you're giving over Taliyah, you are giving over that wave control advantage, plus the ability for Keen to affect the side lanes really early on. And Team Dignitas, their composition is oriented much earlier than TSM's is. So we'll see about this early game from Team Dignitas. If they can get it started off quickly, they've got Kalista to snowball objectives. They have Renekton pushing up on the side lane as well. So there's definitely a lot of early focus.
And I think so much of that early focus will actually be around whether or not Keen can push in Bjergsen. Because when we look at these matchups, we talk about how the bottom lanes are super exciting, how TSM can maybe get their advantage out of the mid lane because the Bjergsen versus Keen matchup seems like it should be lopsided for TSM. But when you pick a pushing mid like Taliyah into Kassadin, and if that lane pushes, they get at least 2, maybe 3 pushing lanes, that's when Team Dignitas could maybe take over the map.
For me, at a very high level, we have seen TSM succeed with split push comps, but they do not look amazing. This is a real test versus a team that loves to fight you, especially around that big Baron that Dignitas have had so much success with. Certainly have to see how the comps line up though, because game 1 is going to be a doozy. Expecting this series to be, I'm going to say dramatic. And it's very difficult to say exactly who will win and what the game score will be, but I think no matter what happens, this is much closer than people may look at 1 versus 5 and say, hey, this is actually going to be an incredible semi.
Yeah, and the point that Kobe talked about for TSM when they're going with their reliable plays, it's Bjergsen on a big-time late-game control mage. Even though Kassadin does have late game, it's not a control mage. This is not your safe, reliable TSM composition whatsoever.
Definitely going to be more than dangerous in the early game. Let's see what they can do. Shrimp has actually had some very versatile jungle openings. He switches up his path a lot. Jarvan is one of those champions I always like to caution about. Can start off with straight red buff level 2 ganks. He actually doesn't need to get to that level 3 that a lot of junglers do to have a super high impact gank. And just that kind of early threat sometimes is enough for people to go for early invades. Also, on top of that, we have Blitzcrank and, the rest of the level 1 powerhouses on this side as well.
Yeah, Shrimp himself has also had a lot of success against TSM. The first series that he subbed in for this split was the first series Dignitas had against TSM, and he was victorious. And even thinking about MSI or TSM in general, they have not found the most success against the most unpredictable junglers. TSM likes to have as much control over the game as possible so they can outplay you with superior lanes. And whenever you have that wild card of a jungle, it can cause some problems.
I think the big carries we are going to be looking to for both teams here. Doublelift and Bjergsen will need to weather some of the early game storm and survive to that mid to late game point, but Dig have been very good at taking a lead and then accelerating the game. And even though I put a lot of faith in their late game, especially with how they like to play in draft, I think this is the team that can show us different speeds and will honestly need to if they're going to topple TSM here. As Shrimp taking that blue buff away. Looks like blue starts for both jungles, so nothing too crazy at level 1.
Yeah, the bottom lane for Team Dignitas actually spending some time pulling there. That allows Doublelift and Biofresh to get the early push on this wave in the bottom side and try and get that threat of level 2 started.
See exactly how the 2v2 goes in. Both of these dual lanes love to play aggressive. It's kind of funny. Adrian, very aggressive support, and Altec, you think of more of your farming late game carry. I think Doublelift's the aggressor usually in this lane, but Biofrost has stepped up to the plate there as well.
Definitely could be the case. Anytime you have your bottom lane pulling for your jungle though, and it's not just solo queue, you have to worry about what he's trying to get done on the other side of the map. This is a Renekton lane up top side. Someday definitely has a long history with this champion. And Shrimp actually is doing a 4-camp clear, which is abnormal, especially for Jarvan. Not even going for the Scuttle Crab that early on.
And it's pretty abnormal for Shrimp as well, because he did a level 3 rush, but didn't use it to gank lanes. And we're getting a preview of what we might see a lot more of this game is Doublelift being able to rocket jump out of Blitzcrank hooks. The timing on that is extremely precise. You have to start the cast time of the rocket jump as the hook hits you. If you're too early, the hook will pull you out of the jump. And obviously, if you're too late, you just get hooked. So he's got a very small window to do that, but Doublelift is one of the most reliable at pulling off that hook.
It definitely is a lot easier just to go earlier on it as well. Oh, Bjergsen does get tagged by one seismic shove, so a little bit of harassment coming in, and Keen is getting that early shove. Shrimp, though, will be seen.
He's got a level lead here, but Sven, yep, just going to
Hello.
spot him. And then ward over the other side. Shrimp gonna dunk a ward back in, and looks like he'll just run away. Hornsa maybe attempted a die, but Shen looking safe so far.
Yeah, Shrimp is 5 camps to Svenskeren's 4. That's something that the pull definitely helped for, and being able to take the Gromp definitely will slow down Svenskeren.
Well, nice little trade onto Altec. Adrian lining up the hook, does land it, but double lift doesn't take tower aggro. Altec, though, still taking damage as the Ren is not gonna pop out of range now, and Altec, not quite enough damage on the other end.
Yeah, double lift quick on that jump does get out of Ren range. Able to dodge a lot of the damage in those trades. And this is one of the reasons that Tristana, we always talk about being one of the favorite picks into Kalista, because of the fact that Kalista's trades are so much more beneficial when they're longer, and then you get to finally end it with that Ren, where Tristana can go a lot more upfront damage, doesn't have to fully explode the explosive charge on the head to get a decent amount out of his trade.
Well, it looks like Bjerg's actually been forced back here. Shrimp camping left side of mid, maybe hoping he makes a mistake, but there's 2 Dark Seals in Bjergsen's inventory.
Yep, going for the early value here on those rings. We'll see if he actually gets to stack any of them up, because Shrimp right now, camping on this control ward, wants to gank him before level 6. This is sort of the classic thing whenever you see Kassadins. Yes, you can always shove them in, and you talk about wave control, but ganking them pre-6, so effective before he has his own escape.
And the wave was in a really bad spot right there for Bjergsen. He moved up because he wanted to be able to last hit the cannon with the Q, and that's all that Shrimp was waiting for.
Yep. Nice play there from Keen as the trades move back and forth. Shove not going to connect, but Shrimp staying around just in case. Sven also here, but Keen's just doing it solo right now.
Yeah, and you can see the double Dark Seal with the Corrupting Potion. Bjergsen, I think, is doing that. He doesn't have the health for the all-in, but he does get more sustained. The non-unique part of the Dark Seal is the ability power as well as the enhanced healing from Potion. So that Corrupting Potion heals him for a ton.
We are seeing another hook here on the bottom side as well, but it's a little friendly trade. Now, the other thing is that Bjergsen is consistently dodging forward here is what we're seeing on the seismic shove. Right now, Svenskeren could threaten the flash body slam, but doesn't even choose to use the body slam. Now, one thing I would definitely say, it's almost always worth it unless you don't have vision to just throw out your body slam, because oftentimes you can get that panic flash from the enemy mid laner who has to respect your flash extension of your range. But because they have a control ward there for Team Dignitas, there's no vision, and Sven doesn't want to take an early risk in this series.
And especially as Keen starts hitting level 6, you have to be more wary of that control ward coverage in the river for the Taliyah gank. One thing about the casting with teleport, though, as long as he's not losing his turret, is he can match as long as that cooldown stays up.
Keen there taking advantage of the tendency we did see from Bjergsen. Maybe he'll switch up his dodging pattern next.
Not checking the control ward reveals Svenskeren once again. This also is tracking for a Shrimp to most likely get level 6 off of this Raptor camp, and could think of going for a return gank on Bjergsen, but Bjergsen just teamed 6, so that's probably off the table.
Yep, should be safe now. As Sven going to finish off this camp. A little low on mana, but should be okay. Maybe even feigning towards top lane, but yeah, has to go back and regen, and looks like the lanes are just going to stabilize back once more.
Shrimp did walk over just to defend that control ward around mid lane, though. I believe he just threw down the flag there on Bjergsen to dissuade him from finishing it off. So for the time being, Team Dignitas still retain control on the top side of the map, and Shrimp then uses that to walk from control ward to control ward and go for this blue steal, denying Kassadin, trying to give Keen more uptime here with the blue buff so that he can really retain that positioning advantage in mid lane. Actually going to take this one for himself and save the second one for his own handoff.
Yeah.
Let's see if they dive.
I think they're looking to at least pressure him off the turret. They've done an early swap on that bottom lane. They were on a back timing, knowing that Doublelift is going to go back to base as well, and we're maybe even hoping for a fight at the blue buff.
Well, swap back actually from TSM will be matched here, and Bjergsen's held onto that teleport, which is what let Keen freeze that wave on him. So all those cooldowns very much being respected on both sides. It looks like the swap will just be neutral as wants to double, and Bio going to clear out the rest of that wave, and Bjergsen TP's back to mid, finally able to use it safely.
Yeah, if you remember back to early on in the summer split, we actually saw those early swaps being extremely effective, but very quickly we had teams adapt to even just sending one extra member up to defend makes it so much easier to defend you know, that first turret push, that a lot of the aggression kind of stalled out, and we saw what we saw here, which was just kind of a pure answer with both bottom lanes defending on the top side.
Yeah, quietly that was a pretty good play from both teams. It was just played properly, so we saw no conflict. That could have been a big move with the control ward coverage that Dig had, and then rotating up the Blitz and Kalista early. A lot of times that means a dead top laner and first turret of the game, but TSM was actually very good at reading it as well. With the one ward they had to at least see their blue was getting stolen away to be able to respond accordingly.
You can see Adrian and Altec just hanging out on that brush on top of their control ward, hoping TSM walk too far forward. Bjerg, though, keeping safe as well. His wave's in a good spot right now.
Yeah, his CS is a lot higher than Keen's, and some of that is from the teleport being used. So I'm wondering if Keen's going to be able to get any pressure. When the wave's shoved in like that and Bjerg is freezing, that's when the time to make a Taliyah play is.
Yeah, I mean, you can credit it for some, maybe like a wave, which is 6 minions, but he's almost 20, over 20 above him here. Bjergsen definitely focusing on the minions in that matchup. And yeah, he did have to blow his flash early with the gank, but he is absolutely crushing here. Keen must have been focusing very heavily on harassment rather than going for the last hits, because there's not a lot of extra threat that's been thrown towards that mid lane from TSM's side.
Yeah, and TSM is completely content with keeping this game in a holding pattern, because you look at role for role, Casten outscaling Taliyah, Tristan outscaling Kalista, and Shen even outscaling Renekton. The time is not now for TSM to try and make plays. It's all on Team Dignitas.
Yeah, and we did talk up a lot about how early game oriented Team Dignitas' composition is. That still holds true for another item and a half for them. So they haven't run out of time yet, but as you said, this is definitely the smooth opening that TSM were looking for. Let's see if the Kalista actually is able to get any sort of hold on these objectives, though, because with the swap up top, there's a lot less pressure on Dragons, and it really has rotated over to Rift Herald instead.
Yeah, we can kind of check on the other lanes just quickly. Nice trade earlier from Haunter, but Sunday going to go back in. Nice Haunt's going to land. Sunday, though, going big with the ultimate. Creep Wave still being tanked there by Haunter. Sunday still trying to fight it out, but a good little shield might be enough for Haunter. Forced to flash. Sunday grabs the summoner.
Goes aggressive here, and we'll see if that draws out the teleport as well. He does have multiple options here, since Stand United's very clearly available to try and get back and defend this turret. But if they really want to keep that option on top side open, where everybody is converging right now, and we actually even see Shrimp up there, then he would save it. All right, there it comes down. Now it would just be the one-for-one answer.
Hook attempted, finds Biofrost splash, but he gets knocked up on the other end of it. Shrimp looking for the dunk, but double it for the great buster shot. Disengages the top end of the play. Bjergsen knocked back in, but he's just going at Keen. And this is where the problem starts for Taliyah.
Yeah, and Bjergsen is winning these trades. One thing that we should point out with the Taliyah nerfs is it almost forced you to go Morellonomicon because of the mana constraints on the threaded volley. So previously, Keen would be able to stack Magic Resist. Now he can't, and because of that, Bjergsen's winning those trades.
And very clearly, in Champion Select, we began to get suspicious when TSM were banning out every single prime mid laner except Taliyah and left it up for Team Dignitas. It's very clearly their plan coming into it. And Bjergsen, especially with the double Dark Seals on Kassadin, it's definitely proving to be very successful this early on. And we get a little bit of glimpse into what TSM were practicing during their off time.
And again, even with all this scaling built into TSM's comp, Dig aren't ahead at all. The game's actually dead even in gold. Bjergsen's ahead in mid, bot and top are even as far as the CS goes there. And that's the game plan. If they're at this point at 12 minutes, that's great for TSM.
And it starts to get so much more scary for any control mates that is up against Kassadin. After, we say, oh yes, plus it is the ultimate available for Kassadin, so there's always that kill threat, but he doesn't have to worry, about the rocks on the ground. He very easily can dodge a lot of the skill sets that come from Taliyah, so that's why this specific one is even worse for the Taliyah than most others. TSM trying to defend their blue buff, though.
Steal attempt here from Dig, but will be thwarted there by TSM. Sven should be able to get that, but it's actually going to wait and donate it over to Bjergsen. So blue goes over to the intended recipient there. Dignitas will not steal the next one. Bjergsen's able to secure that, and again, things just kind of going more than fine here. Everyone's scaling up. No completed items just yet on either side, but just a farm fest feels pretty good given the drop that TSM have put together here.
Yeah, not even a Drake taken for Team Dignitas. And when you look at the compositions, the top lane Renekton has the shove advantage. The Taliyah, you would think would have some of that advantage, but Bjergsen is proving otherwise in this mid lane with Casten and Taliyah. And the shoving lanes just aren't there for Team Dignitas, so TSM is free to continue to just scale up in this game.
And Rod of Age is now finished for Bjergsen, so that scaling going to keep moving even further forward for them, as it does feel like Dignitas' bottom lane is starting to run out of pressure here. This is one of the reasons why Tristana is such a good pick, is that she's pretty good early, maybe a bit of a dip in the mid game, but in this sort of lane where you're just able to freely push and create pressure, that's all that Doublelift really wants here. And they've been doing a nice job 2v2, actually getting a CS lead as well.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when Altec gets to play the Rune King, if that is indeed what he's rushing for first here on Kalista, and if then Team Dignitas start to force those issues. But as of right now, still just sitting on the stand united. TSM have their defenses in place. Someday though is working up a decent CS lead himself in the 1v1 with Renekton, as we would definitely expect, and Dignitas getting a little bit of tower pressure.
Yeah, and TSM actually swapping back once again, maybe trying to go at the Renekton. There are still power spikes yet to be hit. The Blade of the Rune King is one, the Black Cleaver is another for Team Dignitas, where they will still be okay. Like you say, they have time to try and make these plays and get this early game lead.
Well, Bifrost got spotted, but I don't think Doublelift has just yet, except now he will. He's going to go ahead and take down the minion wave. TSM on a race for this turret. It's 3v2, but Zig got a big head start. Make it 4v2 with Trist joins in.
So this is going to be pretty close, actually.
Should be, but looks like it might be going over one way. Dig already there, I think. Altec able to grab it. Oh, barely able to get that first turret goal, but Dig do grab the bonus.
Yeah, strong effort there, but Team Dignitas able to get that bonus. They'll definitely need that to boost up to those first item power spikes that you're talking about. Black Cleaver now coming in for Someday, but Dragon is the transition from TSM immediately afterwards. We'll see if Team Dignitas answer with the Rift Herald though, because I still really like Rift Herald this early in the game. Gives you a lot more pressure, especially around mid turret. And that to me is the most value that you get out of that objective. So it would definitely be important if they're able to secure this Rift Herald, especially with the team that they have and trying to crack open that extra territory.
Yeah, but they're not even going for it. The timing doesn't sync up. They recalled immediately after that. I will say that the ward that spotted Biofrost is the reason that Team Dignitas was able to secure the top lane turret. That's what gave them the confidence to redouble their efforts down on that side, but then they just didn't trust the Rift Herald start against a double TP team.
I still think that the Rift Herald is Team Dignitas' to take, because TSM have sent their bottom lane down bottom again. And with the Kalista, it does have that extra security for taking it. You can easily tank it up. Rift Herald doesn't put out much DPS at all, and they really would only need one extra person.
Yeah, I do wonder if they commit there, if TSM could take anything else. I'm surprised they sent Trist back down bottom with no turret to take. A lot of weird swaps going on right now. Keen actually runs up to the top side, almost like he's escaping the Kassadin.
Yeah, it's weird because I kind of expected Bjergsen to lead, but I think he's afraid of Renekton with a Black Cleaver, so he can't win that matchup right now. But if he finds Keen in a side lane, that's a great lane for him to start split pushing. So Dignitas have priority of mid right now, at least, moving their dual lane there first.
Yeah, lane allocations are going to be very important in this series, as we see Kassadin now being switched up to the top side. But I think that would give them the opening to just collapse onto Rift Herald. They have pushed both top and mid lane. A little bit of time here, but just making sure all the wards are out.
Once it TP'd again, by the way, he's actually in the bot lane. So this is kind of the expected lane allocation for TSM, but just a little late having to use the summoner to sort of rejigger everyone to the right places, and Dig as a result will take that tempo and start the Rift Herald.
This is what Kobe was talking about earlier. Even though the Trist did roam to the mid lane, does still have the setup for Dig to get the Rift Herald. What's interesting here is the mid lane turret has barely been touched, so even a full charge from the Rift Herald would not secure them that mid turret without some more help.
Definitely still could try and exploit if they leave Kassadin in the mid lane. So that's why TSM have rotated Tristana there, who does have the explosive shot for some wave clear. Even though Doublelift not to static shiv or anything yet, it's better than having the Kassadin in mid lane if the Rift Herald does come down. Uh-oh.
Yeah, Trist might be looking for a gank. Bjergsen pretty far forward here.
If he uses his Rift Walk to clear the minion wave one more time, Svenskeren does see the threat there.
Yeah, spots them, gets the Grump out of the deal. Dig 4 strong, actually looking for a play in top lane.
And I'm a little surprised they didn't get a little bit more aggressive onto Svenskeren there. They didn't have the deep vision, and maybe they thought the Trist and Thresh were going over. But the confidence I saw out of Team Dignitas in the quarterfinal against C9, they would have gone for that play. It actually feels like there is a level of hesitancy coming out of them this game. They haven't I feel like even used a flash in the first 18 minutes, and oftentimes you'd see them using something to try and make a play happen.
It's the reason First Blood is still on the table here, 18 minutes in. Teams playing very carefully in these first few minutes. Dig's starting to break it open a little more now. Someday should be able to pressure this down enough with Haunter moving away.
Plus, since Team Dignitas have the Rift Herald to activate, they can actually kind of jumpstart the tempo to this game. While Someday's pushing on bottom, and yes, TSM are going up to the top side, Dignitas had two options there. They could have made a strong push on mid and used the Rift Herald to then kind of make TSM play the game of chicken and have to pull up. But instead, they're going for the defense.
Dig want to fight. They actually may have caught Bio. Cliff's going to pull a back right shot there from Kim. Holland United in his Adrian taking a little too much damage. He goes down. And Bjergsen going to go first by the Haunter with the taunt as the Hook finds one. Huge pick on Akeen as Double tries to leap out of the way of Sunday. Bjergsen grabs the double, but Sunday looking to play clean up on the other side. The red grabs out like a double kill. It's a mess here at Shrimp. He's going to fall for Bjergsen's triple, but he has to run. Flashes over the wall. 3 dead on either side. What an amazing first team fight.
Oh, Someday is not done yet, and Bjergsen has a bunch of stacks on his ult.
Gonna tip
a few seconds.
There's a slow. The stun is gonna land. Someday should be able to clean it up. There's the first jump, but Someday still gonna chase. Auto needs it. Bjergsen gets away again, but Someday chases under the tower. Looks for the Q. Grabs the W. There's the shutdown.
We waited 19 minutes for it, but we finally saw it, and Team Dignitas' option to move top instead of heralding mid means they wanted this fight.
And it was a little bit rough for them to start it out as well, because Adrian gets focused very quickly, TSM do collapse, and after the second activation of the Kalista ultimate comes out, he flashes deeper into the team. Doublelift and Bjergsen are able to finish up that kill, but then once Someday arrives, it's the big Renekton. Altec is still alive, by the way, and he flashes into the middle of TSM for that big Ren. Him being able to chase down Bjergsen and landing that extra slow means Someday finally gets the chase.
Yeah, Altec pretty much untouched that entire fight, and it was only rough, I feel like, for Team Dignitas because Someday didn't have a ward closer to the fight. It took him a good 10 seconds to make it in there after Doublelift Buster shot at him away. And the kill distribution from this fight is actually quite ideal for TSM. Triple kill for the Kassadin, who's already accrued a CS lead in the early game, will make him massive. But with that being said, the double kill onto Altec's Kalista is pretty substantial as well.
Yep, certainly a lot of gold collected all of a sudden. Still, even as far as the overall lead goes, Dig up, but only by about 600 gold. But certainly Zhonya's plus Ashin now on top of Bjergsen's first rod of Aegis, so he will be on full-time split push duty for the next 10 minutes, probably.
Here comes that mid Rift Herald. Team Dignitas are trying to use it in conjunction with Talia Wall. That guarantees that this sucker is dead.
Yeah, really good job there. They see the Bjergsen and Haunter split pushing in the 1-3-1, even with the double TP up. They move, they don't fully commit, but they get the Talia Wall down, so just a safe turret take.
So if we revisit our story of Team Dignitas and the early control that they would want to have, now they're hitting these 2-item power spikes. Kalista on the Blade of the Ruin King plus the Hurricane is where Altec really can shine in these team fights, because Doublelift doesn't have his Infinity Edge yet, right? So this is kind of the big discrepancy. That's why all the neutral objectives at this moment should be going to Team Dignitas, and he is able to secure this Ocean Drake by himself.
Simple solo there for Altec. Takes down the Ocean Drake, gives that over to Dignitas, and evens up the overall Drake count. Doublelift does have that static ship, but certainly building towards item number 2, and Kalista is already cost efficient with how she wants to build, so that gold Altec just got from that team fight certainly helping out then, and I feel like Dig, you can sense it in their play, starting to push the pace a lot more.
Yeah, and they know that Altec is the big guy right now, and they're fastly approaching the level 16 Kassadin spike that Bjergsen would be able to hit with Lichbane, which could invalidate Altec later on. So they need to get vision control around there. This is where Dignitas has excelled with risky Baron calls this year.
Definitely was on display in their previous matchup there versus Cloud9, where they had the big victory. Right now, TSM are doing just that, trying to get some vision to work with. The big thing about Kassadin here, Bjergsen has gone for a very quick Zhonya's, which is really oriented towards that team fighting, towards jumping in onto Altec, then Zonyazing during the ultimate, and waiting for that timer to come back up. But he also benefits heavily from having those flanks warded, having that fog of war to get the easy line there into the backside where he can actually try and get some damage done before having to use the Zonias. You want to be able to kind of use it offensively to reset a two-part attack rather than defensively Zonyazing super early on in the team fight.
And again, all the globals sort of coming together here for TSM. Bjergsen pushes out the very long wave in top lane, gets that towards the tier 2 fight again here for Bjerg. To Shrimp. Gets some damage down. Sven finds Adrian, but the Callisto going to keep him safe. Now back in offensively, found Bjergsen. Hooks it back around. That's enough CC Stat United. And the Zonies will get Haunter in safely, but Bjerg needs to live through the rest of the fight. Onto Altec, but he does go down Keen. Able to take him off. A great wall. Wins Dignitas that fight, and now another kill forthcoming. Sven is going to flash into the Baron pit, but Dignitas aren't having any of it. Keen going to try and chase him down. I mean, they are going to start it. Sven zoned out completely. Keen going to keep chasing. I don't think he'll get it, but I don't think it matters.
That aggressive Baron call.
They got very low off of it, though. Team Dignitas, even with the Ocean Drake here, that was a little bit too big of a chunk to try and buy it off. Svenskeren still gaining health back in the jungle, walking around here, and Bioflash gets him a path out. But that was the quick reaction speed on display. I'm just talking about not wanting to use your Zhonya super defensively early on, but because they go for this initiation here, the immediate reaction from Altec to turn the play around and actually attack Bjergsen gets his cooldowns out immediately.
Yeah, and this was just a beautiful play by Adrian to want to turn that one around. It almost looked like an overly defensive cooldown, but it was all a ruse to try and get the re-engage. But as we were watching that replay, TSM had begun the Baron right before a pause. So a very tense moment in the game right here. We'll have to figure out what that pause is.
Yep, oopsie for Adrian. Spilled some water on his mouse. So gonna need to fix that one. Pull the Haunter! Playing against TSM.
I mean, I've done that as well. I feel like the majority of people have spilled something on some of their peripherals.
Yeah, just wiping up the water on that mouse. Still, everyone headsets on for this moment.
Yep, shouldn't be a huge delay, but yep, you can see.
I've never heard cheers for napkins. Loudest cheers for napkins I've ever heard. Woo!
See?
Dig napkins, let's go.
Diligent and excellent work that our referees do. Credit to them for quickly addressing the issue on stage.
This is where they still need Crumbs on the team, who would always play with the clock.
Exactly.
Be like, I got one right here for you. We don't even need someone to go get you a napkin.
That was definitely one of the weirdest things, that he actually still had that high accuracy with his mouse clicks, considering the cloth was over the entire time.
Hands got too sweaty. You know what's less accurate than cloth over the mouse, Kobe? Hand slipping straight off and not being able to use it. So I'll defend Crumbs here in his cloth. It didn't help that it was like pink, Minnie Mouse, something like that. It was like really special. It was a Crumbs classic. But we are back in the game.
But this is a huge moment in the game. And it's a great call with the Mountain Drake for TSM and the teleport from Bjergsen.
I spilled water on my Baron, hold on.
Yeah, we'll have to see what's actually happening here as they finish the Baron take.
We were just talking about quick reactions, though. TSM shot calling right there.
Yeah.
As soon as they see Dignitas get chased out, I feel like that control ward is immediate place, but there was no option for Team Dignitas to quickly recheck the Baron as they were leaving. And so TSM actually take advantage of this small opening still fairly early into the game. This is a very, very big bridge, and TSM just need that bridge from early game into the late game we keep hyping up for them.
Yeah, and this is just a quick pause. Bjergsen is having, this was initiated by Bjergsen, an issue with camera lock, so when they unlock the camera, he'll be able to hop right back into the game.
I've done that a bunch of times. Small tip is just click on the mini-map with your mouse. It moves the camera and magically unlocks it without having to click the button that doesn't work.
All right.
I've learned that through trial and error. The hotkey, it gets bugged in the same way that the little button does by the mini-map. That's why I had to come up with that solution.
Pro tips.
I'll definitely keep that one in mind. But this was kind of my worry stylistically coming into this matchup for Dig, is that as excellent as they have been around Baron and how good they've been at being decisive, winning fights, and then transitioning aggressively through the mid game, TSM to me plays a very similar style. And they're just as decisive, arguably just as good, or if not better, at executing in team fights. And at least in this game, they've taken a much better late game draft that you think they can strong on the rest of the game too. So as good as Dig have been at getting Baron, TSM are good at it also. So a big similarity in styles creates some big tense moments, and this time, TSM win the exchange.
Yeah, and let's actually back this one up because Team Dignitas did have that good reinitiation onto Bjergsen and then turned for Baron. But the fact that they turned for that little Baron threat that was too ambitious is what cost them this one, because that delays their recalls, it delays their reset of the fight, and it allowed Bjergsen to respawn, get in position, and move for this one.
Health conservation in the mid game is paramount. That's one of those things that leads to these big types of plays and leads to the swing in vision. Like when people get chunked out that heavily, just starting up Baron has a very big health cost if you don't have a massive tank. And this early in the game, you can't have a massive tank built up, even if your jungler is building full tank. You know, Shrimp cannot have enough armor to tank up a 23, 24 minute Baron there. And we saw that they were already damaged plus in vision of TSM. And just like you said, that's a very intelligent punish there from TSM on just, that small health lead and the extra vision that they have.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked so much about Team Dignitas' ability to play around Baron this year, but it does come at great cost. When they can make those sneaky Barons, if it doesn't necessarily work out, you do pay the penalty. And mostly just praise here towards TSM for being able to capitalize that and make a 24-minute of their own happen.
And guys, we didn't really check in when Doublelift got his Infinity Edge, but he does have it now looking at the items during the pause. So
with Baron.
The scary Kassadin late game, the scary Tristana scaling are starting to become a reality. And with Baron being that bridge for another couple of minutes for TSM, I feel like they are very comfortable now with the way that this game is heading.
Yeah, we've had the game be within 1,000 gold as we pop back in, and now with Baron, TSM should really break open a lead. If they can execute correctly, we'll see how Dignitas' defense against the Baron has been, considering how good they've been with it on offense.
But they can also still wait, which is the flexibility they bought themselves here, because they can let Bjergsen farm up to Lichbane and level 16, or they could let Doublelift complete his second Zeal item to really hit the power spikes they want to. So a lot of control they have here, and at the very least, they're going to be able to push up these waves.
Team Dignitas are definitely going to be looking. Oh,
Adrian finds the hook, but it's haunted. He grabs the lance, should be able to get him out, but there's a lot covering it. Spirit's Refuge, and he's going to click it. Now the hook lands in, but the Fate's Call is going to pull Adrian out to safety. Re-engage, knocks up Haunter again.
Oh, Adrian did not want to get hooked after reactivating that Kalista ultimate. And TSM rotate up top. They've got another minion wave, and turret goes down.
Bjergsen had already started that off, so an easy take there for TSM as they take the first tier 2 turret of this game.
Yeah, and you can see the sense of urgency from Dignitas right there. They did not want to wait for TSM to just take 2 or 3 turrets during the duration of this Baron buff, so they went for a play, just didn't work out.
I actually thought that Adrian was going to go for another hook, but I didn't quite see the cooldown on his basic ability at that point, since he had just used it so frequently. But when they're separated like that, even pulling in the tank twice could have been an option. If they were able to get some sort of momentum there. Anytime you can kind of delay the team with Baron buff by pulling off one member, would definitely buy them a little bit of an opening.
Still a 14-second cooldown on Rocket Crab. He's only got 10% CDR on his Blitzcrank at this point in the game. So
probably still on
it's that one shot.
And Bjergsen almost level 16. The Lichbane also now finishes. Biofrost gonna get out from under that trap that Dig set. Adrian is trying to find those hooks. Blitzcrank can turn again quickly, but TSM just on a warpath right now. This tier 2 turret in bot lane's gonna melt.
Baron buff Trist as well as a tank line and a Thresh to pull him to safety. That is exactly the position you want to be in.
All right, Adrian's going again, but
Sunday's on there though. Oh, Sunday a little too far forward. Gets up with the ultimate. Haunter gonna toll the hook left to Bio double. Able to take him down. Now it's a 5v4 under the turret. Haunter able to tank it up for a lot longer. Keen's wall is nice, but Haunter may have taken too much damage. Finally gets free as Sven dodges Adrian's next hook. And TSM, they grab a kill.
They grab a kill, they grab the extra turret. Svenskeren even counter jungles on his way out, escaping over to the Raptor pit and grabbing some more money. With Haunter going back to base, Stand United still available. TSM keep up the pressure.
They want to go for a big play. They can't come here.
It's Bjerg. They found the Stand United in. The Zonies needs to be missed. Finally used it late. They've got a hook in onto Shrimp. Damage should be enough as Bjerg gets his way out. Doublelift not CC'd up for Haunter, and Sven fighting the front line under the turret. Adrian finally does the Doublelift. It's a counter kill onto Sven as double. He's going to be trapped in the base. Keen doesn't quite connect the rest of the damage on the double lift, and TSM somehow escape.
You're not going to get much better of a start there. Hooking in Bjergsen, nearly killing him, having the Zhonya's come with the Shen, and then him basically being a non-factor in that fight. But they still kind of win it. They trade a 1-for-1, plus they can now peel back for the Mountain Drake.
And we have arrived. 28 minutes into the game, TSM feel like they have fully scaled here. Double Lift should be able to complete another item on back there. And Bjergsen surviving after that Zhonya's and getting out meant that it was actually a 1-for-2 trade in favor of TSM, even considering how deep they got inside the base. Here's the early kill there onto Someday that they got to start it all off.
Yeah, the Renekton gets cut through pretty fast at this stage in the game, trying to now build up some armor, but will not match the tankiness of the Shen. Can't get Sven Skaren on the way out. That was the one. Then the next 1-for-1 comes in right here. Great hook by Adrian, and still a strong CC chain, knocking him up twice, but they can't quite get the last hit.
The Stan United shield from Hanser buys Bjergsen enough time to live through the CC combo and actually survive. Able to reactivate and get out. Everybody jumping over the wall in the end. And there you go. It's level 16 Cassidy, fully leveled up Rift Walk. Blitzbane completed as well, so he's got the extra burst on impact. Now it gets very, very difficult for Team Dignitas to outplay.
Yeah, his Void Staff's not far away, and Double Lift has 3.5 items, finishing that last Whisper as well. The gold lead isn't huge for TSM. It's only about 3,000 gold up, but it should be more than enough with this comp to try and take the game.
We always tailor the stories to the games based on that champion select. Let's see what they can actually do with it. Hanser is back out, split pushing there with the Shen. Teleport and Stan United both available at this point, so TSM can just sit back, wait for him to slowly push up with the Sunfire Cape before actually pulling the trigger. Another minute and a half still left on Baron, so they don't have to rush anything.
Yeah, I think the Baron setup is going to be the next stage in this game, but as a level 16 Shen, not going to be soloed out by Someday, who's now transitioned to a tank build. And it is about getting the waves in the right position so they can make a play. That does leave some windows for Dignitas to get picks. Checking to get vision around Baron against Taliyah, Kalista, Blitzcrank can still be very dangerous, so Team Dignitas with some options left.
And the window did not need to be particularly large for TSM to take Baron #1. Now with 2 Mountain Drakes should be even easier to rush it down if Dignitas give them an opening.
That was like a little basement window there near the ground. Nobody even knows it exists. It was dark, and TSM just able to jump right in and grab that one. But let's see about #2, because Team Dignitas will be aware of this one. As you said, Jad, probably Team Dignitas' biggest... Uh-oh, never mind.
Grab,
oh, man.
Grab onto Adrian, forces another defensive Kalista ult.
That's one of the biggest options that Team Dignitas would have had for an offensive play. Now, without the Kalista ultimate, they don't have the options of the... Uh-oh, another one!
That was really nice, actually, but Sven pretty tanky on the front side. Hook on a Shrimp. He's going in, but Double Lift already killed him. Spirit's Refuge taking so much damage for Hunter in the front line, and TSM poised to take the rest of this fight. Double jumps once as Someday creeps into the front side to try and take down Biofrost, but he already bleeding low. Altec fighting Hunter, and Hunter is not gonna die! Gets out of range. A Lantern saves his life.
Altec spent the whole fight hitting Hanser, and he still doesn't get the kill. Shrimp evaporates while trying to initiate. That is how far ahead TSM is.
Oh my goodness. Let's see if this is going to be the kicker to give them positioning around Baron. Still 30 seconds left on Someday. He does have teleport, but TSM do as well.
And they're trying to go fast. Shrimp not alive for the smite. Altec doing his damnedest to lifesteal back up, but that's 2 really squishy dudes who can't face check towards Baron.
Enough tanks as well. TSM melt the objective and Sven Skaren secures it with a smite. Now the gold lead's starting to get a little scary. TSM 6,000 gold ahead.
Yeah, in the start of this fight, you can see why Dignitas would find it promising, but Biofrost, again, with a clutch mid-fight hook, almost forcing Shrimp to ult in. And that doesn't keep TSM at bay. Everyone who needs to can hop out of that thing if they want to do damage.
You can see as well, Double Up continues to go hop to the backside to try and pressure Altec, so he gets off of Hanser, and Hanser even getting out there with the Dark Passage means that TSM are coming with everybody wearing purple.
Yeah, and this is another thing to kind of double back to the draft point for TSM. They deprioritized Kalista when compared to the rest of the league. And yes, Altec is having a good game on it, but Doublelift absolutely neutralizing the pick, so to speak. Every time Altec is going to get in kill range of a tank, Doublelift pushes him off of it, and Doublelift will do more damage in the 1v1.
Deprioritizing Kalista, as well as kind of offering up the Talia there as the obvious mid lane choice, and then jumping on it immediately. TSM draft Kassadin and Tristana. They play the early game calmly, and now they are where they wanted to end up. Someday, not exactly where he wanted to end up, but he still gets back to base.
And Someday is not equipped to fight Kassadin at this stage of the game. Merc Treads only, plus a bit of health, is kind of all that's keeping him alive versus that damage. And TSM will play it calmly for the next 2 minutes with this Baron buff and just try and get some slaps onto the turret. Bjergsen with one auto takes about 35% of that turret's health.
And a QE takes 35% of Someday's health as well. The main tank at this point for Dignitas with how fast Shrimp was dying.
This actually has a lot of repercussions for this entire series, actually, because TSM came in so well prepared in game number 1. There's a hook, though.
Ooh, big code to the Colossus Shield as Sven gets hooked in, but the fight still breaking up. Doublelift picks off Shrimp again as Adrian low. There's the reset as Bjergsen grabs the Blitzcrank. And Dignitas losing 2 already. Turret starting them out as mid-inhib will fall.
Yeah, this game is turned real hard. It is just 3 alive, 14 Dignitas. The wall doesn't even cut off the minions. Here comes TSM.
I mean, there are so many dashes TSM can probably get over if they need it. Doublelift is going to go for it here as turret number 1 is going to fall. Torn finds one as Artek the target. He melts as Biofrost gets credit for the kill. Everything going TSM's way. Keen is going to get shut down. No, not quite, but the Nexus is going to be the price to pay. Haunter falls on the other end of it, but Doublelift stands and delivers onto the structure Someday. One last hurrah as he dives in, but TSM will claim game number 1.
And they were in no hurry, still ending the game under 35 minutes with the Nexus dive. That was a bold draft from TSM in game 1. A composition style they haven't excelled on so far this year. And as Kobe mentioned, that has some far-reaching implications for the rest of the series with how well prepared TSM look.
Bjergsen playing the Kassadin extremely well early on in the game as well. The double rings able to give him a lot of early power, bullying Keen even in that mid lane. Even though he was the one to receive the gank, his flash was blown pre-6. That's kind of the only stage where on the Kassadin side, you're like, oh, okay, I'm not level 6 yet, I don't have my flash, now I need to play defensively, but he still had the CS lead.
I mean, in a lot of ways, both junglers played surprisingly defensive for people that are otherwise very aggressive when they feel like they need to be. I think Sven's like, well, if he's going to farm, I'm going to farm. And he's probably fine doing that. But Trim may have needed to get a bit more aggressive.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing to kind of differentiate in this game, because when we look at the team compositions, Sven Skaren wanted to play defense in this game. They wanted to have a really late first blood as long as it meant their turrets weren't being destroyed around the map. And Shrimp would be the one that then needs to make the aggressive play. The differentiation is, were there plays for him to make, or was TSM just playing that strong of a defense?
Well, certainly defended very well, but for more on the TSM win, let's check in with the analyst desk who are joined by Kiwi Kid.
Thank you very much. Pastry time. TSM coming out on top here in game 1 of our best of 5 series against Team Dignitas. Got to welcome Kiwi to the desk. It's been some time, my friend. How you been?
It's been a long time, yeah.
Does it feel good to be back in the studio?
Yeah, it feels pretty good. I'm really happy to see you guys and work with you guys. I hope I can provide some insight, my Plat 1 insight.
There you go. Well, hey, that's better than me.
Yeah, better than me too.
Better than both of us right now in terms
Hell
of
yeah,
solo queue.
I'm so qualified. So.
There it is. All right, well, you had the prediction of Dignitas at the beginning of the day. Before we get into this game 1, I wanted to give you a moment to explain why it is that you think Dignitas might come away with the victory here today.
Yeah, I just thought without me being on the team, then Dignitas would be able to win. But yeah, I mean, it's still just game 1, so you know, it's not the end of the world. But
absolutely
that's the main thing. Now, Adrian, I feel like the meta is really good for him. He's been working very well with wards. And just Team Dig, I like how aggressive they've been lately. And I just think that's what kind of wins games. Just you saw that at Rift Rivals that is a prime example, even though it's a bit far away.
Right.
Where EU was drafting very scaling comps, and then they were getting run over through vision and deep wards. And I thought that should have happened this game, but they seemed a little scared. So.
Yeah, let's dive into it then. With these team comps, I think at first glance, most people would look at Dignitas and say they're the team that should take the impetus. They're the team that should be playing aggressive through the early game.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't quite play well against TSM just because they have some of the most lane-dominant players in every position. And I know it is kind of a, damned if you do, damned if you don't a little bit. Yep. They pick scaling and then you pick early game and it's like, well, we have to smash them in lane, but it is very hard to do. And I think there are some interesting things going on in the jungle in terms of, you were pointing out the whole path that Sven took seemed really inefficient, but it did kind of mirror the Jarvan wall. So I think TSM, did enough to make it hard for Dig to force plays, but they had to find an opening.
And we talk about those laning stats. Let's just pull up Bjergsen's CSD numbers here at 15 minutes, plus 21 in the Kassadin versus Taliyah matchup. We did see, ban focus towards Keen in the mid lane. 3 bans thrown at him by TSM. So we got to give a little nod to Keen for the work that he's done stacking up against one of the best mid laners of all time here in North America.
Yeah. Oh, you go. Go ahead for it.
Yeah, that was good.
All my analysts got synced today.
To be fair, they probably only banned 2 of the 3 at the second phase, aka they didn't want Keen. They wanted Keen as a counter pick, right? They didn't want to pick him as a safe. So I think it was kind of smart, and maybe they were kind of looking for a Kassadin. Like when you kind of look at the bans, you want to see, hey, maybe TSM did kind of just plan this Kassadin pick, and it would be a lot of good against Keen's comp. And you saw that Keen was actually pretty uncomfortable. I didn't like that he only went he didn't go any AP pen items as the only AP on his team. I thought that was a huge, pretty much misplay. You want to be dishing as much damage as you can as Taliyah, her high base damages, and failed to do so.
Yeah, I think especially when you saw in team fights, he did a good job of finding knockbacks on the multiple members. There's the top skirmish that went 3 for 3.
Yep.
There's a couple around the mid lane where, like you said, if he had a little bit more magic pen, maybe he can actually insta-give somebody or force them out of the fight at the very least. And at the end of the day, the game just stalled out for a really long time. You and I were making bets, when's first blood going to come in, and it came in super late, and that favors TSM's comp anytime you have a Tristana versus a Kalista and a Shen versus a Renekton.
So what's the fix here in this game? Because, hey, the comps were drafted as they were, right? And so if I put you in the shoes of Team Dignitas, Kiwi, how do you press it harder in that first 15 minutes on the side of Dig?
I want to see Shrimp doing less of his jungle and forcing more ganks. He could have, I believe he started bot side, but he could have, just backed and went bottom, forced a flash hook play onto Thresh. Dignitas should have, just like I said before, they shouldn't have been as scared going to the jungle. There was a time where they could have went to the jungle top side, but instead just backed out. They actually were doing kind of fine. There is a way to win with Dig's comp even without kills, and we saw that by Dig securing the Rift Hill at a pretty early time. That was good. And then you can keep, even without kills, as long as you can get Baron, Elder Dragon, keep the whole river yours, you can eventually win, just power through. But yeah, they went for that one play onto Baron, and it ended up messing them up.
I think that's a big thing, just because Dignitas is the team that usually finds free Barons versus other people. They have this early game comp that they didn't play super aggressively with. They could take a scaling comp, run this early game back in a sense where you're mostly focused on farming, going even, and then if they actually execute their Barons well, which is what we usually expect them to do, this game is on, shoes on the other foot. Dignitas are the ones with a Baron out of nowhere and a scaling comp.
I mean, to be fair, they found a good look at the Baron, didn't necessarily secure it. TSM strikes back. I know, Mark, you were talking about some Baron stats coming into the matchup. These are 2 of our best Baron teams.
Yeah, both of them are basically in the league, leading the league for first Baron as well as Baron control. So they're great at it, but they usually get them in different ways. Looking back at the regular season, Dignitas find opportunities to force them when you're not ready, or they zone control you very aggressively when you're trying to get in to contest a Baron 5v5. TSM is more the team that they win those mid-game team fights because they're all so well, and then they go to the Baron. So both of them have great stats, but it's about the clash of styles.
All right, let's look at game 2 here, Kiwi. Let's work our way towards a Dignitas victory here. They've decided to go over to blue side here, so pick bans will flop sides. What do you want to see out of Dignitas here in game 2 to even it up at 1-1?
I want to see them not get any. I hope they don't get shaken up at all. It's just one game, so they should still just look at what they've done and play more aggressive if needed. Since they are blue side, Keen probably won't get a counter pick mid, so I would like to see him get his first or his pick first or second rotation. I think that would be good, and just get him something comfortable. Well, he couldn't get cast. I predict another Cassiopeia ban for TSM.
Right.
So maybe something more comfortable.
I don't see Keen getting Casio for the
Yeah.
entirety of the day. Mark, any thoughts here on what Dignitas can do?
No, I mean, I would just like to see them pick a little bit more of an even scaling team comp. Don't force yourself into the situation where if you don't destroy the early game in the first 20 minutes of the game, you're going to get outscaled. Give yourself the opportunity in that mid game to use your good Baron control.
It's a tendency of best of fives, especially in the postseason, to kind of extend into the mid and late game. So sometimes the aggressive team comps don't work out as planned. TSM, they came out ahead in game 1, but Team Dignitas has a chance to strike back in game 2. Their series continues when we return. Don't go anywhere.